what's your take on all of this controversy and whether Amazon is going to back out of New York?
Well, I don't think they want to. You know, that would be a fairly big retreat. But look, it's become a referendum, not just about the HQ2 process, but about Amazon in general. You've got New York City Council members talking about recognition, the facial recognition feature, and whether Amazon should be selling it to governments. You've got a lot of discussion about Amazon as a non-union shop, even though these aren't blue-collar jobs that are coming to Long Island City. And it's got to be very uncomfortable, and not at all what Jeff Bezos had in mind when he bestowed the award of a half of HQ2 on Amazon. So very uncomfortable for them. They've clearly kind of threatened to pull back. Seems like that's probably a negotiating tactic, but we'll have to see where it goes from here. Now,
last week we spoke to one of the state senators who actually has a vote on the committee that can decide yay or nay on this, State Senator Michael Gianaris. Take a listen to what he had to say about the new reporting that Amazon is considering backing out of New York City.
This is the type of extortion by Amazon that's got us into this mess in the first place. They think they could sit there in Seattle and dictate terms and hope that governments bend to their will. Well, it's not going to work.
So by threatening to pull out, Senator Gianaris is saying that is extortion. Mark, does this uncertainty have any impact on the company?
No, not really. And I still am a little stumped. I can't think of another company that has 2 headquarters, or no, 2.5 headquarters, or what are we doing? 1 and 2? I mean, I sort of an odd thing to begin with. If we just step back, like how many other companies do this? Last time I checked, Walmart's in only one place, Microsoft's in only one place, Boeing's only got 1 headquarters. But nonetheless, the idea that Amazon would have a particularly material economic benefit for whatever locales they go to, I think is true. That they have negotiating leverage, of course they do. And nobody's forcing New York City to do this deal, or Washington, D.C., or Crystal City to do the deal. Anyway, I don't think it has an impact on the company overall. I just found it amusing that they decided to need to have a second headquarters in the first place.
Now, dying to hear what you both think of this Bezos blackmail revelation. Brad, you've obviously covered Amazon and Jeff Bezos for a very long time. And, you know, for many, many years, he gave off the impression of being this family guy, hates the spotlight, doesn't do interviews, sticks to his knitting. But since then, he's obviously expanded into a number of different industries, and then he comes out with this blog post. What do you make of this evolution?
Well, I mean, there certainly is one, right? Amazon used to be the thing that Mark and I would excitedly talk about, and now my mom, you know, said, "Did you hear the news about Jeff Bezos today?" You know, I think it's partly a virtue of how important and intertwined Amazon has become in all of our lives. It's the fact that he now has the mantle of the wealthiest person in the world, and it's, of course, his ownership of the Washington Post, which, as he calls it, is a huge complexifier. But I think what's been pretty, consistent throughout is he does tend to want to focus on doing the right thing, and it's clear that this, negotiation and or extortion attempt from AMI really rubbed him the wrong way, and it forced him into a position of taking this enormous risk that this very personal information might come out because he's very passionate about journalistic values and abuse of journalistic privilege, and he wants to take a stand.
Mark, could this have any impact on the company?
Sure, it could actually, if this leads to a lot of distraction by senior management. Yes, I mean, the reason that Amazon has created so much value for shareholders over time, and for a brief period of time was trillion market cap, and could go back to that, is because of the consistency of the management team. I mean, they've done an enormously impressive job across multiple industries. That's kind of one of the really rare things about Amazon succeeding in retail, cloud, now advertising. I mean, those are 3 vastly different industries. So it says something about not just one person, it's never one person, but about the team that he's built up around them, the kind of the top 15 to 20 executives. They're really impressive. If something like this comes across and really distracts senior management and distracts Bezos, shareholders should be concerned about that.
Right. So speak about a complexifier. I mean, this situation is complex, and on the one hand you have Jeff Bezos saying that he doesn't want to inhibit any publications reporting, that he's committed to journalism. On the other, Amazon gave this statement, Jay Carney gave this statement to the Wall Street Journal for a piece they did saying, "I didn't realize the Wall Street Journal trafficked and warmed over drivel from supermarket tabloids." What do you make of that?
You know, on their earnings call, on the media portion of their earnings call, one of the reporters bravely tried to ask about whether this saga would impact Jeff's ownership stake, whether the divorce, he would have to sell some shares, and the CFO just sort of mercilessly shot down the question. You know, they clearly don't want to have to.
But they are having to address.
They have, that's right. And so they're kind of trying to have it both ways, which they've tried to do with the press in the past. You know, he's a public figure. He doesn't want to disinvite, you know, any scrutiny. At the same time, he's very offended, clearly, about how AMI has gone about it. And his deputies at Amazon clearly are not comfortable talking about what has now become a very, you know, public private situation.
Meantime, business is proceeding. Amazon just announced it's buying Eero, which is a Wi-Fi router systems maker. Mark, what do you make of this acquisition?
So terms not disclosed, but look, they have a major Wi-Fi device in over 100 million households now, and that's this thing called the Alexa, or the Alexa, the family of Alexa devices. And if you don't have good Wi-Fi, you don't have good Alexa. So there's synergies between these products. And the idea that they're going to get more into physical devices, sure. This is the third or fourth attempt by Amazon to do that. No, fourth or fifth. We got Kindles, Alexa devices. They tried with the Fire Phone, but you know, if you want to be in the home, and Amazon clearly wants to be in the home and get more of that, tap in more of that spend, build up brand awareness. I don't know if their Alexa devices have really led to more sales, but they've almost certainly led to more brand loyalty, customer satisfaction, retention, whatever, with the Amazon Prime program. So bringing in Eero, why not? And there is a clear synergy between that and these Alexa devices.
Do you see any irony or any amount of hypocrisy? Obviously, Amazon's empire is expanding into all of these different categories. Amazon does its own kind of surveillance, and here you have Jeff Bezos talking about blackmail of certainly a different kind. But do you think there's a risk of Bezos and Amazon being called out for that?
Only if they make mistakes, right? And there have been a couple of high-profile ones.
Recognition they've made mistakes.
Well, but I was thinking more of the Alexa that somehow turned over somebody's private conversation to a contact. They called that a snafu and apologized for it. But you know, they have set out some, I think, probably poorly understood restrictions about how they gather information on Alexa devices. If you know, those were to be found to be not secure, or they ended up misusing the data, say for advertising purposes, then they do open themselves up to charges, as you say, of hypocrisy. You know, as for now, I probably kind of don't see that yet.
Mark,
it's a trade-off. It could. It's a trade-off. Look, if you want more personalized services, you've got to give information. I mean, the reason that on Facebook the ads are targeted is because there's a trade-off, and you've been willing to allow them to track your information, or you've given them information. Same thing with Amazon. I mean, hopefully the ads and the services and the product recommendations are better and better because of the data that you voluntarily supplied to them. At some point, for some people, they're going to cross the line. So I'm sure we're going to be dealing with this issue for the next 5 years. Whether they actually get into the Facebook-like crosshairs, Facebook shot itself a couple of times in the foot, if one can do that.
Just a couple.
Yeah.
A few more than a couple.
Yeah. And so Amazon could do that. They've generally been pretty good, I think, at handling these kind of issues in the past. But you know, the more that they are in people's homes, the more that they have access to this data, there's greater risk here.